I'm delighted I can speak to Gideon Falter now. He is the chairman of the campaign against anti-Semitism. I mean, goodness knows how you're feeling today, Gideon. Are you able to put it into words?
It's very tough days like this, but, it's very tough many days. I was at synagogue on Saturday for a special Holocaust memorial service where one of the survivors who attends that congregation spoke just about what happened to her. And I think one of the things that is just so difficult to comprehend about the Holocaust is that it's not that there are just a few survivors who had particularly horrific stories. It's that literally every single survivor that you speak to tells you about this litany of terrible, awful events that happened in their life. And you think how short a time ago it happened, just 75 years ago. And then to go from thinking about that to looking at, even in the UK, where we've got Jews being pelted with bottles, threatened with knives, Jewish businesses, synagogues being daubed with graffiti, and then what happened where anti-Semitism started to permeate our politics, and this problem we've got now in the Labour Party. The fact that anti-Semitism didn't die a death after the Holocaust, when the world looked on in horror and disgust and shame that this had happened at all. The fact that anti-Semitism hasn't just gone away and has instead started to sort of reroute itself in our society, I think is one of the most disturbing things, to be able to, as I do, go and speak to Holocaust survivors. And they ask me, about the situation now, and I'm not able to say to them that all of the education that has taken place since the Holocaust has worked. It's a horrifying thing to have to do.
Why do you think it hasn't died with the Nazis, anti-Semitism?
I think that one of the vehicles that the Nazis used most successfully in spreading anti-Semitism was the conspiracy theory. And I think that due to the nature of social media particularly, people have become even more credulous now in Western society. So when they hear all these conspiracy theories about the Jews controlling finances and politics and funding wars and sort of being behind every kind of social ill, they're a lot more credulous than they perhaps would have been some time ago. But the big difference, of course, is that these conspiracy cranks, instead of speaking to 10 people in a room somewhere, are speaking to 10,000 people on a YouTube channel, and then those 10,000 people go and spread these ideas further still. And there are some of these people who are quite well-known major conspiracy theorists, operate their own YouTube channels with tens of thousands of subscribers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of subscribers, pumping this stuff out. And I think the key problem that we've got is that with anti-Semitism, it will always exist in some form or another. It's like every social ill. You can never eradicate it completely. But the big difference has been, firstly, it's been spreading through these conspiracy theories, and secondly, there's a real lack of enforcement. So whether it's what happened in the Labour Party or anti-Semitic crime, there's a real sense of impunity amongst the people who perpetrate these kinds of crimes against Jews, the idea that nothing's really going to happen to them. And so it becomes a form of hatred which is essentially free of charge in the eyes of many of these perpetrators. And until that changes, it's going to keep growing, which is why it's so important for the government in particular to really step up pressure on the Crown Prosecution Service to make sure that these crimes get punished properly. And also for the Equality and Human Rights Commission to do its absolutely vital report and investigation at the moment into anti-Semitism within the Labour Party, and make sure that also is excised properly from the party.
I know that the Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla, was there, and I think Sadiq Khan was there as well. Were you surprised there were no ministers present from Britain?
Well, I think Britain actually does a pretty good job of commemorating the Holocaust. We had, obviously, Prince Charles was in Jerusalem a couple of days ago. We've had, and he is really, realistically the most high-ranking royal who would be able to attend such a thing, given the Queen's age and stepping back slightly from all the international travel commitments. We've got the fact that in London and around the UK, There are many Holocaust memorial events, some of which my colleagues have been speaking at today. So I think, under the circumstances, I think Britain does a really good job of commemorating the Holocaust. I suppose the big worry that so many people have is that it's all very well commemorating it, and it's all very well making grand speeches, and of course it's necessary to commemorate it and to educate future generations. But if we're not also learning the lessons by forcing these people to stop doing what they're doing, if it's by imprisoning them or by changing their minds, we have to do that. And at the moment, not enough of that is happening. That's why society is drifting backwards.
Gideon, it's a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much for sparing us the time. Gideon Falter, he is the chairman of the Campaign Against Antisemitism.